Every
No, I'm gonna sit right here.
We're like, did you understand?
So. Because I can't see the, Isaiah, you're not sitting here.
We'll
sweetheart.
see. You send questions that, hey, Bill. Yeah. And there's also about 50 extra pounds on me right now. So that hasn't done it. I kind of look like a different person, but I don't like it. I'm pregnant, I'm over it. I'm so over this. Yeah, there was a bad accident. From the yeah, well, that is true. That is true. True. And it actually means that it's keeping me through.
Good.
share screen.
Yeah. Good. How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling really good.
That's so good.
Dyed my hair for the first time.
Doesn't that feel good?
I know, good.
Good for you. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Happy to see something.
Your batteries are good, right? Good. Now there's no light when you're doing it.
So,
Now there's no what?
There's a light right here.
yeah, sign in now.
Oh, yeah.
When you're pressing forward, there's a light. There's a light.
Minor
So which,
I know.
see, it's just the button, right? I can slide it. When you already say go, I'm gonna switch it over.
Yeah, I guess so.
So this
I
is
don't know what's going on.
just hitting that one, right?
Yeah.
For the next one.
No.
No.
Hello, Dave's dinner. Casey just got home. Come on. Well, we have food here too. I didn't know we have dessert.
You need that in the
And I'm gonna take Owen back there.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Is that in all the way on this?
Oh, now it's
Oh, there
going.
it is. Okay.
Why is it going now? Hello out there in Zoom land. If people can hear me, can you raise your hand and just let me know so that I am sure that you can hear me?
Oh, I was gonna say that's all dinner. I wouldn't be.
Wow. No, I can imagine.
No, I can't. Let's see. So it's ready because I switched over to share screen.
Hi, how are you?
You get a lot of RSVPs.
I think that William had 3 different
Is there?
formats.
We had stuff going in 3 different places.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, this is great. I think this is awesome. Do you remember when you did the last one? What was that one called?
It's the same thing.
Oh, it is.
Actually, no, and I did the last one here.
Yeah.
I was just going by what you guys said. So we didn't, I don't think we named it.
Because I know it was this year that we did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to make sure this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, Miss Emery, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I think I'm sweating a little technology stuff.
Oh, it's fine.
It's huge.
Recording in progress.
I said, I'm good.
No, because somebody's traveling.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I'm traveling with friends as well.
I'm hopefully everybody can hear me. I think there was like a major accident, so we could be like on 5 minutes before it started.
And if you give her $2 more,
Thank you.
it's.
And you say your clicker was working now?
Am I pushing my luck? No, it's not working.
The big thing, right?
Yeah, it's
Too tight.
It's just overwhelming my system. That's not on the. I think so, you're right.
Just when I think I have everything in place.
better than people do it yesterday.
Right? One of these?
Oh, yeah. I know, right?
Well, that's Brody. And how old is Brody? Brody just turned 10.
I just trust you.
Your battery.
Yeah, and so you include Brody as well. Promise?
When did you start working?
Did you have a cookie?
Yeah, I had chocolate.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, of course.
Never doing such a thing.
I can't go back.
That's what it's happening.
Yes. I have monster.
Well, yeah. Oh, you're the one.
I love the thing. You won't be.
If everybody's hungry, there's lots of food.
So helpful the other day with the people. Like to make sure so much recently.
Right, you got a comfy chair. I know, I hoarded this whole little area, yours. I need to move around a little bit. So, yeah.
I keep reaching for the button on the side here.
Recline.
Yes. I want one like a little bit. I've got that really awesome age. I try to get up until it takes off the button. And I got stage 3 CRS.
Should be there. Go say hi to Brody.
No.
Huh?
What's the title? Unfollowed.
CRS. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I'm at early stage of CRS already.
Yeah.
It's not good. Like, I'm worried.
And I told the doctor, they gotta wear glasses. I gotta wear a hearing aid for the nose, definitely. My nose doesn't work. I don't have smell. Sense of taste. And I get a blue sticker. I thought, chew. You just have points. You get a blue sticker.
Good. We just had a talk today about being affected. Oh, so that was fun. Huh? She didn't really get it yet, but we talked about it. Yeah. So now she knows she has 2 months. That's gonna be a rough couple weeks ahead. It will. I feel like I'm gonna hear your phone. Any minute. Is that the first time you guys have ever talked about it? No, we just together like a lot. She just didn't get what it meant, and so we wanted to just start as soon as possible. Yeah, we just talked about mommy and heart. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we just from the beginning. Always. Absolutely. Yeah, like we've even from the beginning tried to their moms by name. And yeah, like and then they ask you, that's the mommy that you do her time and you do the heart. Right. It's but you can tell when it starts clicking. Yeah. When they really start understanding.
Well, and I feel like, the earlier we start to, now it's time that you start to get more inquisitive. So we'll see. We'll see if it reads.
Not on the job.
Not on the job, though.
Every time I do, I lost track of it.
Kaiser broke his femur in his hip.
Oh my gosh.
Increasing our chest level because our other guy gave us 2 weeks notice. Just regulated from something new. In fact, I just did it the other day.
Do it with a hammer.
Have you had Darren Davis?
Wood, though, not people.
Okay. Hey, we're here. That's nice. I will say that I still have heart this morning from this headache that I had all day yesterday. It's gone. It was.
I got to care about
Yeah. Right.
You're like, I know, buddy, it's a long day for you.
Well, that's really good. Right. Back, we're good.
Baby steps.
There you go. Canada next week?
My kids are.
I'm losing my family.
If you can hear me.
So I think that should help.
Right.
Whole constant, everyone. Hey, Brody.
Sit right here.
Right.
There's also sometimes.
Sometimes. Paper.
I'm so proud of you. All the way home.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for your celebration. He's like, why? She does so easy. He was like, we're just talking in my car. I was like, oh, yeah. So sweet.
That's awesome.
I think they have a class. I like,
lost them, the sea first.
She's out. I'm like giving her to fun. She's like, looking, how's that look? I just wanted to see. As soon as we started running, she was out.
Huh?
Ellie, did she ask you permission if she could go to sleep? Yeah. She was like, no, because so many times I can't fall asleep. Oh, no, I didn't even think of it. I was just like, she was so tired and they jumped for nonstop. They both slept in the car today for an hour. I was running errands. Oh, actually, I was home from swim lessons and then I went and sat in the shop all day. Did they say they had fun? Okay, good.
Oh. One day, at a time. Right? Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we have a few more coming. We're going to go ahead and get started just for the sake of time. Really glad you guys could come this evening. Hi. I don't know how to use this. Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. We are here at Expressions of Hope, and we are also on Zoom.
Now you're on Zoom.
Now I'm on Zoom. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm really glad that you guys are here. I hope this is a really fruitful evening for everybody. We are here tonight with Colleen, and she is part of the Bryan Post wraparound program. And I'm excited to hear everything that she has to share about trauma behaviors. The other thing we wanted to share is that Helene and I are partnering up and we are going to be offering some wrap services. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in Napa, but it will
Just on the
be,
border in Solano.
yes, into Solano County.
Working on it.
Maybe in another county if we can
In
get that
Fresno.
worked out in Fresno. So we're very excited about that. Just on a personal level, we have been part of the wrap program for the Bryan Post wrap for over a year now, and it's just been really significant and really valuable for our family. We've been working with Helene for a while, and she's helped us out quite a bit. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from her. This is a very interactive. If you're on Zoom, we will try and keep you as involved as possible. And I guess you can put questions in chat. Is that okay to do? And we'll follow that if you've got anything.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some role playing. So we will try and keep the camera moving so that you can see the video. All right. You good?
No, it's technology and it's not my friend.
All right. Thank you.
We may not be able to see or do some things into chat when we take a break. I'll take a look at it for my Zoom people. Hi. Thank you for coming. This is a little boy, or this little boy, you can't see it because I'm here. I know this is kind of difficult to see, but if you can see, right here is a stitch, right? So this little boy had Jean-Pierre syndrome. When he had Jean-Pierre syndrome, he's not an adopted child. This is kind of a really nice way for me to express to you exactly what trauma does. And so to paint this picture, this little boy had a stitch from his tongue that got taped onto his cheek. Now, in order to keep him from pulling the stitch out, what they did was they put these restraints on him. Can you see that? And what do you guys see in his eyes, if you can see it?
It's hard to see.
Sadness.
Yeah, sadness, worry, right? But we think, oh, this is a little baby, right? Little babies, they're not going to remember, everything is going to be fine. Well, 16 years old, he's locking himself in his room. He won't go to school. The parents were struggling with him and he broke it was a picture frame. He had a piece of glass and he was holding it up to the parents. Well, they were kind of beside themselves and going, well, what in the world? You know, this kid had a good life. He's got 4 siblings. Everything at home was good. Mom and dad very active. No real significant traumas, abuses, or any of that kind of thing. So by 16, he's suddenly having a really hard time and he's staying up all night on his gadgets, playing games all night too. Wanting to do the right thing, but incapable of it. After years of why can't you just, and your brothers and sisters are doing this, or sit down and focus on your homework, do what you're supposed to do. Why are you doing this? The endless repetitions of that, because adults around him just really kind of feeling frustrated, right? What happens is that he integrated that and he took that inside of himself and then started to really hate himself. And so what's wrong with me? Why do I act this way? Why can't I act like my siblings? Why am I not like the kids in my classes? I just want to be like them. They hired me, and as we went through it and I found this and I said to this boy at the time, he's like 25 now, married, got his pilot's license, doing really, really well. So for him, when I said, what do you see in your eyes? He said, well, I was terrified. Trauma gets stored in your system, right? So sometimes we don't have a working memory of it, but there's a taste in the room, the temperature in the room, the way something sounds, the smell. Your significant other says something that triggers that old memory that maybe your parents said to you and you got upset, right? When we were working together with his permission, of course, never without, we held his arms down and his mom put her fingers on his tongue to represent the stitch. And all of a sudden you can see his entire eyes and his face. He just went right back into that trauma place. And I said, well, how was your body feeling? And he said, I feel like I just want to die. And why do you just want to die? He's like, I don't know. I feel like this every single morning when I get up. Well, yeah, you do feel like that every morning because of this, because of these surgeries. So think about our kiddos that have gone through adoption. In utero, by the 3rd trimester, you're processing everything that your parent's feeling. If that parent's in a domestic violence situation, dad's saying, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to kill you. The first sentence out of that child's mouth might be that. So they're coming out where you're feeling like the parents feel like, I just can't stand this baby. I can't wait for this to be over. Any of those things, or that parent is so stressed out and having really difficult life issues, that child is processing everything. They come out of the womb with all of these rejection issues. The amount of shame that this kid was holding was insurmountable. It was too much for anybody to have to hold. But it's hard to remember that when you have a kid that's staying up all night long, where you're taking, their electronics, trying to keep their electronic in your room, and then they're sneaking in the middle of the night, grabbing electronic, and then they're up all night and doing these things. It's hard to see these things. So let's take a minute. I want everybody to kind of close their eyes for a second. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. I want you to picture your kid or a kid that you know. Imagine that story. Imagine what it's like to be that terrified. What it feels like to have that level of rejection. When, even if you're a baby and you're prepared for an adoption, you're walking through life and people turn around and they're just like, oh, you know what, just leave me alone right now. And then you're feeling this incredible amount of rejection. I want you to imagine and picture what it would be like to be in their body. Any thoughts? Kind of hard to picture, isn't it? Or imagine. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I never wanted to be a therapist. It was the last thing I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to write grants. That was my plan. And then God said, Helene, congratulations. Here's your bouncing baby 16-year-old. And then I met Brian Post and I listened to him talk. And all of a sudden, my life made sense. All of my trauma and why I acted out the way I did made sense. And then I looked at my teenage daughter and I said, oh, now she makes sense. And then I started on this journey and God said, go, Helene, go be a therapist. And so I did. And so 20 years later, I've worked with, you can know, an incredible amount of families, and I've had about 95% success rate with behaviors dropping by about 50%. And the reason we did is because what we're going to talk about is a little bit of a paradigm shift, moving from that stuff that you and I were raised with, right? If you growing up till your parents said you're grounded and you're like, no, I'm not, what would have happened?
I'm grounded longer.
Right. You go into the you grounded down for 2 days. Oh, you want to up the ante? You want to be grounded for a week, 2 weeks? I'll take the phone, I'll take the TV, I'll take, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we all of a sudden come and then you raise these trauma kids and we say those things and they're like, go ahead, take my stuff. I don't really care, because there's nothing worse that we can do to them that hasn't been done already. Here's the other really incredible part that if I can really help you begin to understand, and I will tell you that I had, as a parent, I had those moments where I was in a corner crying, going, I don't know how to raise a teenager. I don't know what I'm doing. Like feeling completely overwhelmed and not knowing what to do when my daughter was in my face screaming, hey, you know what? I'll do it again. Stab me. And then I'd be like, ah. And I'd be yelling and screaming back because that's my imprint, right? My imprint was to yell and scream. The only thing I didn't do was knock her out. But that would be my imprint. So if anything that you really get from tonight, I want you to think about your child's nervous system. Think about you through all of these things we talk about. If you're calm and you're regulated and you're leaving for work and you're having a good day, well, you've got everything that you need as you walk out the door, right? You are doing all the things that you've decided that you want to do. When you're stressed out and say you're running late, the kids are acting out, you can't get them to school on time, are you forgetting your keys? Are you getting angry and frustrated? What are the things that are then happening in your life? You're not acting in a way that you would act when you're calm. So the more repetitions of calm that we can create, the more they're able to stay in line. So I have a limit and I say to little Johnny, look, go out, ride your bike, but I need you to stay between this limit and this limit. If you can't stay between these two areas, well, you're too stressed out and we need to get you to a calm place. And then we'll bring little Johnny in, get him regulated, send him back out, and try and get him to stay within the repetition. Now, if you've got kids who have been through, drug and alcohol exposure in utero, they're going to have a really hard time. We're talking hundreds of repetitions, right? To help them stay in the line because they can't even remember where the line is. They know that they want to do the right thing, right? But it's really, really hard for them. So we're creating many, many repetitions. But every repetition that we bring to get little Johnny calm is something that changes the neuroplasticity of his brain. And so that's what we're after. is to create repetition after repetition after repetition of calming your brain. Now, if you act out and I say, you know what, I told you not to do this, and you went ahead and did this anyway, and you're grounded, how calm are we keeping here? Right? We create stress and fear. And when we say you're grounded, we do that because we're stressed out. We have all of our own stress and fear. So creating those repetitions of getting your child to a calm state is what all of this is about. And as we go through tonight, we're going to take some situations and scenarios. I want you to give me a hard time. Tell me if there's something I'm saying that doesn't mean that it's not my kid, then tell me it's not your kid. And let's go through it and make sure that you get what you need to get. Okay. No, it's not working. Can you bring up the whole slide? So trauma is anything that is, keep going, to get the whole slide out. Good. So trauma is any stressful event that is prolonged, overwhelming, and unpredictable. And when it goes on unexpressed, unprocessed, and misunderstood, it leads to long-term trauma. So many times things are going to happen for your kiddos that, you know, they're maybe not in a traumatized situation because they've got you, but maybe something happens. The more we can express and process and come to some level of understanding, the more they're not going to hold on to it, and it's not going to become that long-term trauma that affects them later on. So that they're walking down the street, you know, we talk about veterans that come back from war, they're walking down the street and all of a sudden the car backfires and they feel like they're at war all over again. So they're not going to have that kind of a flashback where all of a sudden as a parent, you come up and say, Emery is my kid. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, in this kid's mind, well, I'm up higher than she is, right? I'm looking down on her. I'm walking towards her. I have my body faced with her body. Her brain is going to perceive that as a threat. So once she's into that place and she starts having an amygdala hijacker mode, looks like, seems like, feels like, must be like, therefore it is, mom is then a threat, and then your kid is kicking you. Make sense? Okay. Go. The next slide. Examples of traumatic events: birth trauma, medical trauma, bullying. When you are bullied in school and you've got a kiddo that has that bullyish kind of blustery behavior and they're puffing up at you, and you have a history of being bullied in school, there's a really good chance that that child is going to feel like they're trying to bully you. And even if it's a 5-year-old, you're going to move into a place where it's like, this child needs to learn, and what they're doing is absolutely not okay. And if they even think that they're going to come after me, and all of a sudden you have all of those old feelings that come rushing up back in your bullying. Auto accidents, chronic illnesses, child incidents, work accidents, and many more. Here's the thing, our kids have these kinds of regulatory difficulties. They have abuse, they have neglect, they've been in adoption, foster care. How many times? They just, I don't know, it's been a couple of days where I keep hearing about kids coming in the system, then they go back home, and then they come back, and then they're in the system, like again and again and again. So I'm here and I feel safe, and now I'm back home, and then I feel safe again. Because home is what I know, right? But the frequent moves and the transitions, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, time to go to school. They're like, wait a minute, I gotta go to school, I'm not going to school. And then they're freaking out. And they don't want to move because they are terrified that you're not going to be there at the end of the day. Or all of a sudden DSS comes rushing in the midst of a transition, and when that transition happens, now all of a sudden there's something traumatic that happens around the transition. So my brain will forever say, anytime I have to go from here to here, this is really, really scary. Chronic pain, emotional absence is huge. You know, we don't really see that as something that is that big of a deal. I'll have a lot of parents tell me, or, you know, parents that, you know, well, yeah, my mom was depressed, but it wasn't a big deal. Look, I turned out fine, right? But what happens when you have a parent that's depressed, they actually did a study about this. They did a study where a parent that was connected to their mother, connected to their child, the parent would walk to the child and the child would be like, oh, Mom, right? And they get all excited. When a depressed parent would walk towards the child would go into the same amount of distress as the parent who was connected to the child would walk away. Did I say that right? Does it sound clear?
Say that.
So
Yeah.
the parent who is not present walks towards the child becomes distressed. Then you have the parent who's connected. As they walk away from the child becomes distressed. So it was the same. It's always like a mouthful to say. And the needs left unmet. You know, when we don't have your needs left unmet, that's a really difficult thing. So one of my families that's in my program, this little girl went out and she had this like ice cream that was probably like that big, right? And so she went out and she went to the movies, and I think she had soda, and then she had this huge ice cream. And then on the way back, she's on the phone and she finds out that you went out to dinner with Miss Lee. And she's like, you better get back here. Like, did you even begin to think about me in this? Did you even begin to think that maybe I wanted to go eat? And we hear that and we go, are you kidding me? Right? This child went through a lot of starvation. So I said to Mom, because it's a perfect moment, right? I'm right there. Mom, tell her you are not ever going to let her starve. And all of a sudden, as we're saying this a couple of times, I'm not ever going to let you starve, baby. I love you. Everything is always going to be okay. We're going to order food and you are going to be okay. You are going to have everything that you need to have. All of a sudden, she dropped into like, you know, that gut level core tears and the hysterics when somebody just hits that spot where they are in so much pain. And so for the first time, this kid could go on for hours. She dropped into pain. Mom was really able to go in there and say, I'm not going to let you die. It sounds dramatic, right? But that's what's in her body. I'm going to die. I'm never going to let you die, baby. And then all of a sudden, she was able to re-regulate and move forward. So the other part is always talking to the trauma. So what all of these things have in common is that they all happened in the context of a human relationship, right? So that little girl didn't have the food that she needed through an adult. And then we're like, oh, baby, I love you and I'm right here. I got you, right? And that child's looking at us like, you know, you're scary. You're the adult that hurt me. Okay. Check in there. Let's take a 5-minute break. Let me check on my munchkin.
Good. No, there's some water and some snacks back here. You guys want to grab something? No. I have work.
Hello.
Is it here? Is it here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Then you can go back.
I didn't get it here.
It's here too. It's in there. No, it's there. Oh, yeah. One where you didn't. You didn't.
Hi. Okay. That's what I heard because there was an accident, right?
Yeah, it was. Way.
Yeah.
Then I thought I would go.
But yeah, that was worse. Yeah. It was all bottlenecked. Yeah. To try to get by, go through like the BMV way.
Yeah. So I finally love that. Going through there was actually a really good idea, but.
Yeah, yeah.
There. And one time we were take water.
Yeah.
Because he was like. 10 cars. Yeah. It was just like 9 to upper 6 months. And they're all saying they're
Right.
killing me. It
Yeah.
sounds like I'm going through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just crazy. So, yeah. It sounds like something big in the bathroom. Like, no, it's like the fan.
Yeah.
Some stuff right through.
Yeah.
Wow. Not necessarily.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of people. That's, yeah. I don't even know if the.
Oh, no, I mean, I didn't write, but because I talked on the phone and my mom was able to that next to me, she was like, she texted her, she's like, "I'll see a cop right now." Like, "What did I go to?" I have no
There wasn't ridiculous. Did your calendar person share? Oh, they did. Okay. I was gonna say, because I can go back and
Yeah, like that too much.
yeah, no, he's having his major. Oh, it is. Yeah. You know, she saw me. I'm not kidding. She was like, I want to go. And I was talking to Joe and was like, oh, okay, then he's gonna stay here with me.
I got down.
I was like, okay. Then I said, oh, that was it. There's childcare. He says, roller skating, I pick him up from school, and I see Devin. He wakes up in the morning, and I see Devin till 7. Goes to bed, and I see him play with Devin tomorrow.
I told him,
It has this, it's got this bromance happening. I would only do that if this lady, sorry, will live at my house.
On Saturday.
Yeah, I would only adopt him if Blaine came to live at my house.
Right. And now my husband's like, not even open to adoption. Yeah. She just wants my touch.
It's gonna be so cool.
Would you want to do that?
Go away.
No.
So you turn off the speaker.
He approved.
Right now. Can't really see it. Where's he out?
You went when you took off Sarah things.
You go all the way back to our house. There's a flood house around there. And she buys that house.
You know that Matt and I were neighbors. Sorry. Yeah, so.
Now, because it just isn't like the thing.
We do that all the time. ourselves.
Didn't like you being on.
Yeah. And then I think we should just. Okay, thank you for being patient.
I just went in the other.
This is a really good picture. If we look at kids that have been through emotional abuse and neglect, this is an actual brain scan. Can you see the difference in size from the normal brain compared to the extreme neglect brain? So we don't know how much neglect really traumatizes the brain. And unfortunately, I wish they did brain scans on all of our kiddos so we have a more accurate picture of what goes on for them. But
I don't think anyone would do foster care if they did that. Right, just phone.
well, we have a little bit more.
Sorry, they just keep us crazy.
So when our needs are not met, it leads to a chronic state of stress. You know, if you stress at its core level, right, we constrict into survival. So if I said to everybody, look, I want you to get really stressed out with me, right? And I want you to take your hands up, for those of you who don't have food. And I want you to get really stressed. Then I want you to get even more stressed. I want you to be so stressed you don't know what to do. And then when you're super, super stressed, I want you to move into a relationship. Well, that doesn't happen, right? It only happens when we open and we're not stressed out. We don't realize that, you know, you get stressed out walking into your child's room because they leave it a mess and they maybe draw on the walls and they do all the things you want them to do. And then you get in there and you go, what? And you know that you're stressed, and then they look at you and they see that you're stressed, and then all of a sudden maybe they explode and then they're all stressed out. So then you have that feedback loop that happens between you and that child. So when we are actually stressed out and we are in that state of survival, our evolution says, I'm stressed out because I feel like I'm gonna die. That's what it is, right? It's our physiological feeling of, if you don't do something now, you're gonna die. The unfortunate part is that we've evolved so much. So when you're driving in, how many of you were stuck in the accident tonight? When you're stuck in that accident and your body is in stress, or you were driving last night in all of the rain or in that bad weather, your body's in a state of stress. Our bodies don't understand that, oh, I'm just driving stress, opposed to, oh, there's a saber-tooth tiger that's about to eat me alive. So you're in that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die state constantly. And we just experience it so many times. So we're constantly having these cortisol rushes that are like battery acid for our brains. Okay, so Brian Post created this. He said all behavior arises from a state of stress. So there's a triggering sensory event. Something happens, I get stressed out. There's a presence of a primary emotion, either love or fear. And I want you to think of love or fear as calm, stress out, right? And that dictates your behavior. So the behavior arises from a state of stress. Between the stress and the behavior, you have the presence of a primary emotion, love or fear. And the behavior is a result of whether you're feeling you're in a love-based state or a fear-based state. Good example of this, my adopted daughter, she was 18, we're getting ready for prom. And as we're getting ready for the prom, all of a sudden she's with a boyfriend. And I'm like, all right, great. Let me take, let's do the pictures now, right? She grabs boyfriend and she throws boyfriend in front of me. She's like, Thomas, protect me from her. Well, protect you from me? Why do you need protection from me? I haven't beaten you. I haven't done anything to you, right? Now I feel what? Rejected, right? Because as adults, we feel rejected. And when you stress, we regress. So what did I do? I got really adolescent, crossed my arms, sat down. I was like, well, I don't take any stupid pictures then. Right? Well, I'm learning and I'm practicing. And so I take some deep breaths and I'm like, all right, what is really going on? Well, I feel really rejected. We just put a whole prom together. She's telling her boyfriend to protect her from me. I feel really rejected. Take some breaths to get myself regulated. I go back to her and I say, babe, I felt really rejected. It has nothing to do with you. It's just my own stuff. And she said, well, when I was home living with my mom, during the sensory event, she would beat me, call me a slut and a whore, and my sisters would be taking pictures of me. It wasn't me, it was the camera. The camera set off, I'm gonna die. And I need protection. Because I know that when that camera comes out, I'm gonna get beat and I'm gonna be called a slut and whore. So she got stressed out, went into a state of fear, behavior, protect me from her. Make sense? The little girl that I was telling you about with the food, mom went to go have food and she didn't take me, even though I had the ice cream, right? Stress leads to confusing disordered thinking, and it suppresses your short-term memory. So your short-term memory, that ice cream never in my mind now, right? Because I'm stressed out. So for her, you go out and you're eating without me. What if you don't love me and you're not gonna feed me? And now my behavior is, what did you do? Why did you not feed me? And why did you think about me? Right? This happens for all of us. In a state of love, all of a sudden I get stressed out and move into that state of love. I take some deep breaths and I say, okay, everything is okay. And I just felt rejected and I shifted from fear into love, and then my behavior reflected that. This is what I'm feeling. How are you feeling? So it is through the expression, processing, understanding of the fear that we calm and diminish the behavior. So I so many times had to keep going back. You know, I had Brian years ago moved me out to Virginia Beach, and I had a kiddo that I never seen anything like it. She walked in, she looked in the refrigerator, she didn't see any food. And so she literally broke every cabinet, every drawer in the house, the kitchen table. There was ketchup and mustard all over the walls. As we started to work this out, because this kid spent more than half her life, I should say, in RTC. So in spending more than half of her life, every time I get dysregulated, what do they do? Sorry. Oh, it's a treatment facility, residential treatment facility. So every time I get dysregulated and I start acting up, and in RTC, what they do is they restrain kids. And they hold them until the kid stops. And that's a very common normal practice, right? But what happens now is that everybody else is helping that kid regulate, and that kid's not learning how to regulate themselves. And your brain makes an association with the person who's restraining you is now the threat. That makes sense? So we have to go in and we have to get the kids to express. This was really hard. You went through a really, really hard time. Tell me about it. Tell me more. It's really hard for us to get in there and emotionally meet kids at that level. It takes a lot of passion to do that. We're afraid to say, like, you know what? You're right. We went out to eat and you didn't have any food, and it feels like you're going to die. Because then we feel it's really dramatic, right? But it's not. It speaks to the body level and what they experience at the body level and what's now stuck in their cellular system. Every time we work from a place where we are getting these kids regulated. The neurons then fire and they wire and they connect together. So for this kiddo who we were taking from, destroying the entire house, what we're doing is kind of like resetting a thermostat, right? So she's at 100 degrees when there's ketchup and mustard and everything in the house is broken. Well, we want to reset that now at 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 70 degrees. So now we're going to bring that kiddo up to a place of maybe they hit 70 or 80 degrees. And now they're going to be a little annoying a whole lot longer. They're going to be in the place of, I don't want to do this, and you're mean, and you suck, right? But maybe they don't hit that intense aggression. This kid, by the time, let's say maybe like 2 years, she would maybe, I don't know, I'll give it a 30%. But now her aggression looked like this. How does that look to you? That looks premeditated. It looks manipulative, right? She didn't know how to replace it. As I'm watching her, it was actually a vase, and she's kind of sliding it over. I said, did you know that when you have a really bad day and you're really stressed out, that moms and daughters go for a drive and they talk about these things? She went, oh, turned around, got a purse, and walked out to the car and waited by the car. Sometimes these kids, you spend more than half of your life in an institution. You don't know what moms and dads do. We have to educate them. Sometimes we're even saying to them, like, moms and dads are here to love you, and moms and dads feed kids. Moms and dads do what we have to do to keep them safe. Moms and dads don't have sex with their children. Sometimes we even have to say that because they don't know. They haven't experienced those things. So, focused attention. I am working with keeping that kiddo in the limit again and again and again. I'm focusing my attention on working on whatever behavior, and we're working on creating regulation to clean our room, right? Because maybe our kiddo goes into the room and they're like, I'm cleaning the room, and it's just too big and it's a meltdown. Well, then we go in and we clean, or we just say, you hang out, watch mommy clean the room. And so we start creating repetitions of what it's like to be in a calm state and be okay. And that nothing bad is going to happen. So we focus our attention on it, we create the repetitions, and that changes the neuroplasticity of the brain. So this is always interesting to me. If you look at, and this is, another interesting, I'm going to sidestep for a second. A hyper-aroused kid is that ADHD kid that's all over the place, right? Boys, when they're younger, tend to stay in this state. Girls, when we're younger, stay in a hypo-aroused state. So they're lazy, they're spacing out, they're shutting the door, go away, leave me alone, I just want to die, I want to go away. As we get older, we flip. Women go into hyper-aroused states. So for all of you in this room, think about it. When you were stressed out, I got to clean the room, this has got to be done, the house is a mess, how come you're not doing this? Husband, why are you not doing that? And we're like going at 1,000 miles an hour, and my kiddo's having a hard time, so I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do hours of research, and then I'm going to listen to Helene's tapes, and I'm going to listen to Brian's tapes, and we know exactly what we're going to do. Well, husband is going, right? Because now he's in a hypo-aroused state, right? As he gets older, he watches a little bit more TV. He's on his phone. What, honey? Half listening, right? Going for a drive or whatever else to stay in that hyper-aroused state. And then in our houses, moms, we're going, but you're not listening to me, you're not staying present, and blah, blah, blah. So our state of stress then hits their state of stress, right? Or maybe their state of stress hit our state of stress. It's not, it's 50-50. And then it becomes this huge feedback loop. And if we keep at it, then husband all of a sudden explodes. And then we go, you're the one with the anger issues. Right? But meanwhile, they feel back in the corner because we're stressed out and something needs to happen and it needs to be different. So, but when we're younger and we have these states of stress, and remember, we're talking about your nervous system not being able to get to calm. when I don't have the things that I need, we go, oh my gosh, they're ADHD. Oh my gosh, this kid definitely is having a manic state and then they're depressed. So then they're into hypoarousal. Or they're just depressed. And so we start creating all these wonderful diagnoses that essentially says your kid is stressed the hell out. I think it was Alan Shore who said that all mental health is underlined by the inability to get regulated. It's because you are stressed out, we wind up with all these mental health diagnoses because we've been in it for years and our brain has had repetitions. Well, if I've got repetitions of being really depressed, I've got repetitions of bouncing off the wall so many times, it creates these intense grooves in my brain. And I'm not to say that there's not stuff that biologically really exists, but a good portion of the time, what it is that I just can't get back to calm. So let's talk about a defiant child. Who in this room can be a really good defiant child? Awesome. So give me a scenario.
Just use one of ours, Liz.
Oh, trust me, I have my own. I worked with a whole bunch of kids, so. And I was one of them. So what's the scenario?
Do you have one?
Oh, you need to give a scenario. Okay.
Well, I asked and you said I have so many scenarios, so come on, let's it's a scenario.
The other day, my son, I asked him to go clean his room, and which is a normal occurrence in my house. He just started throwing a fit. Mind you, he's only 5. So he's throwing a fit and kicking and screaming and saying, no, I'm so rude and I don't like what you're saying to me.
Okay. How about this? How about I can define 5-year-olds and then you train into me. Train them on switch.
To train intervene.
Okay. So ask me to go clean my room.
Or Helene, can you go clean your room, please?
No.
Why not, buddy?
Just be quiet.
I'm here for you when you're ready to talk.
Be quiet and leave me be.
Okay, you're right here when you're ready.
No, go away. I said leave. I said get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Go, Mom, go.
I seriously do spend watching sometimes.
You didn't expect that.
No, I was, but it's okay. Buddy, can I help you clean your room? We can do it together and I can tell you what we're putting stuff.
I'm calling your social worker, that's it.
No.
How many minutes do you think you might need?
Will you go away and leave me alone?
I'm not leaving you, buddy. I'm here for you.
Okay. So what are some of the things that you see coming up and what's happening?
No, you're fine.
The kid didn't even know what he wanted. He was so confused.
Okay.
Say, go.
Mm-hmm. What else?
No, didn't give up.
Yeah. So mom talking, sometimes my brain is overwhelmed. The amount of talking makes it more intense. Yeah. Okay. So let's try and do this another way. Yeah. So I'm going to do this the wrong way and then different way. Okay. Hey, bud, we got to clean your room. I know you don't want to.
No.
I know. Yeah. But come on, let's do it. We're gonna do it together.
Nope, I'm good.
Do you want ice cream later?
Nope, I'm good.
Oh, but you do want to play your video games.
Nope. You suck.
Okay, let's try this another way now.
That was the exact thing that we did.
I know. I was relating.
No ice cream later, fine.
Yeah.
I say heck of calm. I'm like, oh, I'm not TV tonight. Simple.
So watch my body posture before I did this. Buddy, we're gonna do that room thing that you hate doing. Mhm.
I don't want to do that thing.
I know. It sucks cleaning your room, doesn't it? Like, it's really not fun.
It does.
And then you don't remember where things go, and it feels like it's just so much, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, your room overwhelms me too. Sometimes mommy walks in there, there's so many Legos that I don't even know what to do with them, dude. I don't know how, maybe we gotta figure out how to make it a little bit easier, you know? Yeah. I know. Yeah, buddy. So again, not making eye contact. So what was different in this scenario?
Empathy.
Yeah, like I didn't even go, because we get there and we want to start moving towards the thing, right? Now, if I say to Liz, like, Liz, go over that way, more than likely she would be like, no, right? That she doesn't want to be moved. We don't want to be moved and need to do things that we want to do. And if I'm in a defiant state, defiance is your freeze and your freeze, fight, and flight. So I want to work with her being stuck, because in that moment she is stuck. So sometimes what I want to do is just put it aside, empathize with what there is to do. Now, let's say I now start to move towards your room. Okay. All right, buddy. I think that we need to do this thing. I feel really overwhelmed because I don't even want to clean the room. How do we make this fun? I don't know. Doesn't SpongeBob, we have the SpongeBob music? Why don't we put that on? You hang out, play over there, and I'm gonna start cleaning it up. Okay. So sometimes it may be modeling, and that sucks because someone feel like, what do you mean I gotta clean the room? Right? Sometimes it just takes for us to do it a couple of times for them to then see that this isn't so overwhelming, or that mommy is willing to do this, or even if we've had so many episodes of fighting back and forth that I say to her, every time I've walked into this room and we go to clean this room, mommy gets really stressed out and you get really stressed out. And I kind of feel like maybe I need to figure out how not to get stressed out so that I can help you. I'm really sorry that I'm getting stressed out.
It's okay.
And then what I can say is, how do you feel?
Stressed out.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. Now, when you clean the room, is it
Thank you.
toys, clothes, food, or all of the above?
Could be all of the above. Knowing our kiddos, you'd probably, open up the mattress and find 30 wrappers. And then to pile it on, sometimes there's ants too. Because you have kids, if you have a kid that's hoarding and gorging, that hoarding behavior is because I starved to death and I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I need. And so therefore I'm eating it as fast as I can, or making up in the middle of the night because maybe my circadian rhythm isn't in place. So our circadian rhythm, when mom holds a bottle and we have that sucking motion, our circadian rhythm is what teaches us, oh, it's time to go to sleep. It's time to wake up. It helps me stay asleep. It lets me know when I have to poop, and it lets me know when I'm hungry, and it lets me know when I'm full. So when you haven't had that parent interaction, your body doesn't know how to do those things. So a lot of times kids get up in the middle of the night, they're really dysregulated, they don't know what to do, and so they're eating out of house and home and eating all the worst stuff in the middle of the night, and then leaving all the wrappers, and we see it and we're like, oh, what did you do? I'm gonna have ants. We don't go, oh my gosh, baby, you're getting up in the middle of the night and you're eating all this food because you know what it's like to be really hungry and starved. My daughter, while she didn't go through starvation, we would eat dinner and then my husband would be at the end of the table like, because he didn't get it at the time, but she would be pushing this cheeseburger or whatever food in her mouth as quick as she could, like literally gorging on it. And when I tell you that the juices would be going all the way down her neck. And as we worked on it, we processed it. She said when she was a year old, her mom left. She was born in Colombia, South America. And her mom left when she was 5. Grandma brought her here to the United States, dropped her off with mom, said, I'm going to go to the store and I'll be back, and left for the airport and left her here. Stepdad took her out for a cheeseburger. She said the click in her mind was that was literally the best cheeseburger she has ever had in her entire life. So we do that. We go, oh, baby, don't worry. Come on, babe, go take you for McDonald's. We're going to feel better, right? We don't get in there and say, Grandma just left and she didn't even say goodbye. Oh my gosh, she must feel so abandoned. Cry that out. I've got you, right? Because, well, kids are fine and we don't want to get into those big, big, scary feelings. But then we create addictions, right? An addiction is an external attempt. It's something outside of myself to help myself feel better on the inside. And we all have our thing, right? You have the thing where you eat too much chocolate chip cookies, or you're gambling too much, or you're watching too much TV, or you're playing your video games, or some of us have worry as an addiction. Because if I worry and think about stuff, then I don't have to feel stuff. How many of you guys have kids that obsess? They obsess and perseverate. Well, I just got to get my hair cut, because if these hairs right here were cut, then, you know, it would be okay. Or if I just had my iPad, or if I just have this, I just need this, and then I'll be okay. And because, you know, Giant school plays it, and then his parents let him do that, and I don't know why you won't let me do that. And they get so hung up on that thing. You know what? Rejection breeds obsession. So when we feel rejected, we tend to obsess. And sometimes we don't see the cues. Kids are so hypersensitive. I wish you can remember the one kiddo came out and she looked at her mom and she was like, well, how long are you going to be talking to Miss Lee for? And mom's like, well, I got to do my work because I'm working on being a really good parent. And she's like, and she walks out and I said, Mom, she feels like you're choosing me over her. And mom's like, no, she doesn't. I'm like, yeah, she does. Like, say, I am not choosing Helene over you. If you want to come join us, come join us. And then mom's like, did you feel that way? And she's like, yeah. Because everything, if, you know, we put on our glasses, right? We see the world a little differently. If those glasses are tainted with rejection, all I'm doing is looking at the world and looking for your rejection. Well, you know, you're standing there and you have your arms crossed, so therefore it's a rejection. And you're thinking, no, my arms just feel good this way. You know, you're walking through the room and you're thinking, oh, I forgot to switch the laundry over. And they're going, oh, you hate me, you're going to get rid of me. It was pretty mind blowing when I had a group of kids a while ago. We were doing group therapy and the kids got together and most similar. The kids said, when my mom leaves and she goes to the store, I always think that she's never going to come back. And the other kids were like, oh, you feel that way? I feel that way too. And I know she's just going to the store, but I get really scared. And it was kid after kid after kid that was saying, like, yeah, I really feel that way. Come on, Tim. Okay, this is my favorite. I give you a copy of this. This is the drama triangle. Stephen Cartman, the man who created this, said, that 87% of the time, this is where we're at in our life. We're either playing the hero, the perpetrator, or the victim. If you think about it, you walk in, I remember my daughter, I knew that something was up, that something sneaky was going on. And I said to her, babe, I know something's up. I'll bail you out, right? I'm gonna bail you out with your friends. You don't have to do whatever it is that you're playing. And she's like, oh, no, nothing's going on. Now all of a sudden it's like midnight, and I don't remember what her curfew was. It was like maybe like 11 or something like that. And it's midnight and she's still not home. Well, now she gets home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I am literally pacing, right? I'm pacing and I'm like, where is this kid? And then all of a sudden I looked at my husband and I was like, that's it. When this kid gets home, she is grounded indefinitely. Well, I haven't heard that since I was in adolescent. Like, that was my mother's statement. I went, whoa.
You ground them until they get out of the convent.
Until we get out of the convent, yes. Yes. You bring him to the convent, yeah. So she came home. Now, how often do we ask our kids why? Why did you do that? All the time.
Yeah.
Guess what? We cannot answer a why question until you are between 25 and 30 years of age. So this felt really, really personal to me, right? So I'm in victim. I offered this. She didn't take me up on it. I was going to bail her out. Now I'm really mad because I can't control it. And I'm over in perpetrator. That's it. She's grounded indefinitely, right? She walks in and I'm like, I jumped back into victim. How could you do this to me? And she looked at me and she put her hands on her hip and she shook her head and she's like, and you know what? I do it again. Well, I've come a really long way. I can tell you, I was like, Blah! And I'm screaming and I'm losing it. And now I'm the perpetrator. And now she's feeling victimized by me. And then my husband's like, clean one. Chill, we'll deal with this in the morning. And now I'm mad at him because what? You're not on my side. You're not backing me up. You need to back me up. So now I'm mad at him, and then he's feeling victimized by me. And then he turns around and he's like, well, I'm out of here, right? And so there's this whole big mess. And then I say to her, well, and think about this. When you were growing up and your parents said something like you're grounded indefinitely, right? You went to, your parent became the perpetrator and you felt victimized. And then you were looking at them and going, you're the meanest parent ever. What happened to what it is that they were trying to teach you? It doesn't exist because it gets lost in this, right? No longer is it that, you know, honey, something's going on. You fed into your friends. Let's figure this out. Because something happened that you couldn't say no. Opposed to, you know, now you're grounded indefinitely. Well, you're the meanest parent ever. You'll never understand me. Now, that's not to say here is the difference. But when I tell you that your intention is everything, your intention is everything. The difference is if I say to my kid, and I did this with my daughter Julie, she decides one night, I'm going and I'm going to go dancing with my friends. Baby, that would be a really great idea. You have had a really long week. If you leave here all stressed out, you are not making good choices and decisions. If you leave here in a calm state and a good place, you're going to make good choices and decisions. I hope. But I know if you leave here in a bad place, you're not making good choices and decisions. What? I've been in your lectures. I know what you say. You talk about not grounding kids, and you're grounding me. No. Now, for those of you that are teenagers, write this down. I'm asking you not to. So you're saying I can't? Well, when they're saying that, and you say, yeah, I'm saying you can't, I am now in a power struggle, right? Mm-hmm. I'm asking you not to. You're saying I can't? No, I'm asking you not to. So you're saying I can? No, I'm asking you not to. And when I tell you that we went on for 20 minutes and I am sitting on my sofa and I'm grabbing those cushions and I'm like, well, so you're a liar then. You think so? Yeah, because you say, don't ground your kids, and now you're grounding me. Babe, I'm not grounding you. So then I can go. No, I'm asking you not to. It was the longest 20 minutes of my entire life, but I'm grateful for that because I see so much of this. And so eventually she was like, you know what? I'm gonna go out anyway. And I was like, you know, I have not been dancing in a really long time. I'm gonna get my stuff. I can wait to go. And she was like, oh my God, you're crazy. And then she was like, and just like that, she flipped it and she's like, can we do like popcorn in a movie? I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll make the popcorn, you choose the movie, and let's do that. But after that, she gone because, and in that way, I kept saying to her, again, you leave here in a stressed out state, you're not making good choices and decisions. If you leave here in a good place, you're making decent choices and decisions. So then she would say to me, I really had a long weekend. Do you think like we could do popcorn in the movie? And that was another way of her saying like, I need some time in and I need that attention. And so that moment in time flipped. But that, when I tell you that was like the longest 20 minutes, when you think about your kid going, please, why can't I? I just need this. I just want to go for ice cream. Why can't we do this? And why can't we do that? It gets really, really hard. So I'm asking you not to keep you out of that power struggle. So the point that I'm also trying to make is that I can say to my kid, what I need you to do is hang home tonight because I don't want you to make poor choices and decisions. It's a whole lot different than you're grounded, right? One's fear-based and threatening. Now I can come from that I'm pissed off place and you know what? You're really stressed out in the way you've been acting, like you just need to hang home. You're not gonna make your choices and decisions. My intention is not true. It's gonna be clear. So I want my intention to come from a place of what I really want for you is to get regulated and do the right thing. I want you to leave here and make good choices and decisions. Does that make sense? So when we talked about love-based, it doesn't mean that, because a lot of people say, oh, so you're just like, I'm supposed to say, oh, okay, honey, everything's okay. I love you. And, you know, and not correct them. Yes, we're supposed to correct them. The point is, I think the actual definition of discipline is to teach. So what we're trying to do is teach so that we're not in this struggle where your kid is thinking you're the meanest parent ever. And what I'm not doing at the end of it is teaching them how to do something different or teaching them about the behavior that I want them to have. I'm not getting any closer. They just get fear-based of, if I don't get home, my parents are going to ground me, or they're going to take away this, or they're just, and they're going to learn to hide it behind that better. I mean, how many times did you know that your parents were going to get mad at you and then you would just learn how to sleep better? How many of us in here? Mm-hmm.
Even as an adult. Just kidding.
Honey, really, I spent $5 on this. So environments that heal. So essentially what I've really learned to do over the years is create environments that are conducive to healing, because when kids have that environment, they just kind of fall into place and they start to do the healing work. They're not as resistant as we are. The older we get, the more stubborn we get. So in that healing environment, if I have a kid that is really difficult, or that is going to be like, you're an effing blah, 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 and I'm going to react to that, okay. I'm not going to be like, oh, baby, right? Especially if I have a history where that triggers me. Sometimes love is about being strong and courageous, right? It's not, oh, baby. It's like, you know what, dude, we're having a really difficult time. You and I, we're going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And so you're coming from maybe a little bit more of an abrupt, abrasive place, but you're not opening completely, right? there is one of my favorite things is your hands on your hips. I'm right here, right now, just for a minute. And don't pinch your kid when you're doing this. You don't stand to the side because we don't want to trigger their brains, right? So I'm right here right now in this for a minute. I'm right here right now because you start to get grounded and our energy is enough. I've looked like a crazy person for the years making these transitions. I can tell you that I've done all of this work myself, where this is what I would look like. I want to react and I want to yell and I want to scream. I refuse to do this anymore. Mr. Wall, I am not going to act, doing whatever I had to do because I was going to make the shift. But when you grow up and you don't have any of those imprints and you grow up in pretty intensive peers, well, then that's who you are. Right? So if you look at your own history, we have our own healing work to do sometimes. We're aware, and I put a wig, but what I really now looking at it really want to say is that you're kind of attuned. You're attuned to what's going on. I'm attuned that I just walk through the living room to go and put my laundry in and my kiddo are struggling. And sometimes all I have to do is go, you know what? You and I were okay. Life is good, man. So I'm just kind of aware and attuned to what's going on and I'm meeting the need. My daughter would walk in the house and she would be like, I'd be like, wait, you okay? I'm fine. Well, now I'm gonna catch 22. But I'll knock on the door, then you don't care about me. And if you really cared about me, you'd be coming in this room. Or it would be, if I went in the room, it'd be like, get out of my room and just let me be. And so I would knock on the door and say, I know you're struggling. When you want to talk about it, here's where I'll be. Because I'm not gonna play the game of getting the push-pull, but I'm creating an environment that makes it safe enough for you to come and do your work when you want to. I have an expectancy. I have the hope that you're going to get there. And I'm going to keep holding that up and I'm going to keep holding up your higher self. A lot of times I'm going to say to you, I know walking out the door with one of my kiddos and mom, we're walking out the door and she's like, I'm sitting in the front. She's like, no, Miss Helene is sitting in the front of the car. No, she's going to sit in the back. And mom's like, if you go and get in that front seat, then we're not going anywhere, right? So this is escalating. I'm like, mom, she's gonna do the right thing, right? So she's starting like, here's one end of the power struggle. Here, mom. It's like it's kind of like having a fishing line. Come on, bite the hook. You don't want to bite the hook. You don't come here and we don't wind up in the power struggle. It's just saying, baby, I know you want to sit in front. I know you're gonna do it. And then you walk and you have a sense of expectancy that they're going to do the right thing. A lot of times we get caught up. The fear is that we have an expectation and they're not meeting our expectation. So then we get really frustrated with them, right? So there's a big difference between having a sense of expectancy and an expectation. Expectation is a thing. Expectancy is a word. It's an action word. I'm getting there. I'm working with you. Make sense?
What happens when they do sit in the front seat?
Then they sit in the front seat and you go, you sit in the car or you don't sit in the car and you go, that's really just too hard for you to do that. Honey, if you're this stressed out, maybe we need to just go order in and we need to not go somewhere right now. Maybe that's what we need to do, but I'm not doing that in a punitive way. I want to know that there's a process, right? I kind of look at it with kiddos because I can't nail every one of them every time and I've got to figure it out. And so it's like walking up to a building that's got 50 doors and I'm going to keep trying these doors. Sometimes it's not even budge. Other times it's going to start to open and it's going to slam shut. Sometimes I'm going to feel like I get all the way in there and I'm getting thrown back out. So it's kind of stepping back and saying, okay, what is it that I need to do to figure out how to get in and figure out what this kid needs? And so working the process means that sometimes we're going to try and figure this out and shift things along the way. So we're heading one way, then all of a sudden I get mad and I go, I'm not handling this the way that I want to handle it. So mommy's going to take a few minutes, try and figure this out. And then we're gonna try again. I'm gonna come up with something else that we're gonna do. So it is a process. Sometimes we want to get there. It's really hard to just get there, right? We can't just make that thing happen. And then the second I'm trying to make something happen, I lose the process. I'm working and looking at an outcome. So now I'm pushing, opposed to inviting and moving that person to the next place. Does that make sense? So here's my favorite. Here, where what time are we at? Sweating. Let's look at some specific interventions. Setting limits instead of punishing. I think we've got that right. Sometimes stating the truth. You know what, dude? Sometimes it's really hard to tell you what's going on because you start screaming a lot. Sometimes we're afraid to go there because I know if I say that thing, you're going to have a really hard time. But as long as I'm walking on eggshells, then I become unpredictable to that kid. If I'm unpredictable to that kid and I will not say things, well, then they have a chance of kind of coming up and kind of puffing up, right? Well, no, then we're going to do this kind of a thing. Tell me what Kiss the Pink Elephant in the Room is. Anybody guess?
Is that something you made up or that's a real thing?
Well, think about the elephant in the room.
Right.
So you just embrace it and love it. And go to it. Like,
You are going to embrace that thing that's happening that nobody wants to say. So the kid just screamed and yelled and called everybody names in the house, but now they don't want to say anything. You're not allowed to say, shh, quiet, don't say anything. You're not allowed to talk about it, right? There are a lot of kiddos that will try and control that way. You want to mean it. Yeah, you know, we're just going to move forward. I know it's hard to recognize what just happened. Sometimes the kid is upset, but we don't want to bring it up, or something else happened and we're just not acknowledging it. You want to acknowledge that thing in the room that's funny. Like they know that you got a call from school and they came home and nobody's saying anything about it. Then you become unpredictable. But we don't want to say anything because we don't want the kids to get upset and we want them to get their homework done. But now they're kind of they're uneasy, and there's a chance that they are going to explode once you start to talk about it. So if you want to name the pink elephant.
So how do you name the pink elephant?
Huh?
So like, how do you name it? So if there's an issue going on and the whole family knows, and it's something that is very obvious, and he's doing it to our animals, and you don't want to shame him, but then you're just like, we all know about it. We're like trying to like redirect. How much can you actually do we stop? Can't. Like, so I'm just like, how do you kiss the pink elephant? Because we all know, I think he picks up on it, but now we're just like keeping the dogs away instead of dealing with it because we feel like it's not like our thing to fix.
Right. So maybe in that moment, you're not going to name it, or you're going to say, oof, everybody gets really uncomfortable when this happens. We're going to come back and talk about it. And then maybe you go back later and you say, dude, I know that you feel us pulling the dogs out because when you have a hard time, you keep kicking little Toby.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that it's really uncomfortable. We don't think that you're bad. We think that you're struggling. Right. We don't really kind of come in and from that supportive place. So, you know, give me 4 people.
I guess I'll go since I have.
Yeah.
I'll sing that for tomorrow.
I want you to, as I'm doing this exercise, I want you guys to pay attention to how your body feels. Okay. So I'm the acting out child. Liz, you're here. Henry, come in front of me. Behind me, over here. Now, Henry is my aunt, and my aunt loves me, and she's always there for me. This is my guidance counselor. This poor woman keeps working really hard to make sure that I'm okay. Then my principal at school was really trying for me. Well, and this is mom, right? So I'm having a really tough time and I turn around and I'm like, I don't know why you stay. You just stay because you're my mother's sister. You don't really care about me. What do you ever do for me? Oh, what? You take me to the mall every now and again? So what happens after a while? How does she feel? Yeah, I've done my best. What am I gonna do for my niece, right? She's gotta learn and grow up. Okay, Miss Counselor, you know what the hell you're talking about. You just say, oh, take some deep breaths, count to 10, blah, blah, blah. I'm in my office, I'm here. But you know what? You're not there. You just give me all this stupid shit tools and you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, something.
Wait, right? That's kind of our body when all of that happens. What does our body want to do? I'm done. I'm out, right? So she's like, I've done the best I could. Oh, okay, Mrs. Principal, what are you gonna do? Suspend me? Go ahead, suspend me. Because you know what? I want to stay home anyway. My boyfriend's been home. We're gonna hang out. So come on, what are you gonna do? Huh? And oh my God, I'm getting this kid out of my school, right? You never loved me, and you're the worst mom I have ever had. And you never should have adopted me because you don't know what the hell you're doing. Right? How many people have hurt? How many times people hurt that? That's pretty painful and hurtful. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, now that I've managed to push away every adult, how do you think I really feel inside? Alone.
I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah, abandoned. Right. I kind of created everything that I went through. So I push people away because it's what I know to do. And it works. The thing that I'm so terrified, so you might as well just leave me because I know you're going to leave me anyway. You can't handle my feelings.
See, what you were also doing is you were doing what you know how to do good.
Yeah,
You're good at that. So you were doing your good at that to all the people who were trying to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because maybe if they see the real me, then they're not going to like me anyway. Thank you, guys. No, it's for you. Oh. Being able to influence, when kids are little, we can kind of control and make them do stuff. Once they get to be teenagers, it's over. It's just over.
Game over.
Game over. If we have a relationship with that child, you have the ability to influence. Could Julie have walked out my door that night when she was doing, so I'm going out dancing with my friends? Yeah, she could have. But we worked towards a relationship that even though, no matter what, and we had some difficult moments, even when I acted like a knucklehead, I would always go back and we would pair and we'd figure it out together. And we started working a process together. So sometimes we want so much to control a thing, to make a thing happen, and we can't. And it's in our nature sometimes that when we're afraid, if you think about it, the only time we seek to control is when we're afraid. Otherwise, we don't really seek to control things.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
The thing about cleaning up the bedroom, like, we touched on this a little bit this weekend, but the thing about cleaning up the bedroom is you're like, what do? You go in and clean up the bedroom and then you feel like they've just walked all over you and you lost.
Sorry.
It's your job for now on.
Yeah, well, it's not even that it's your job, but that you tried to set a boundary or a limit and then they pushed against you. And then as the parent, you gave in. And that's our old way of thinking. Like that's the shift in the paradigm where we have to make that choice to think about it as I'm actually stepping and lowering myself, I'm stepping in. But that's hard because we're wanting to control that environment. We're wanting to say, no, I asked you to clean up your room. So I just think that's, I guess I answered it. It's shifting the paradigm. It's going from the control and they just walked all over me and got what they wanted anyways, because they said they weren't gonna pick up their room, to knowing that you're influencing and you're teaching and you're, right?
Right, but sometimes kids will keep moving that, they keep moving that boundary, right? And when they do, and we turn around and they are absolutely like, I am not cleaning my room, and if you make me go and clean my room, I am gonna destroy this entire house. You know, I have kids, a lot of kids that will turn around and do that, if they're kind of popping up. You know, you can't make me, and I'm not gonna do that, and that kind of a thing. Sometimes you need to step back, but you need to make it your decision. You know, dude, I'm thinking that you and I just need to like hang really close because you're really, really struggling. And I think cleaning your room is not a good idea right now. Because sometimes it depends, right? Like for your kiddo, if I'm going to school and I want to go to school, I'm literally physically shaking in a car. I can't go to school. It's just too much, right?
Right.
I don't want to clean the room because I want to watch what's on my iPad right now. I want to think about, do I want to have some flexibility in that, right? Because that I can make a process. So I don't want to clean my room right now because I want to be on my iPad. You know what? Let's see if you can do that and let's work on that. So I'm not going to get into a power struggle. Maybe we're going to take a step back and later on have a conversation with you about cleaning your room and what it feels like to clean your room. So there's all these different avenues that I might go into. Or it may be, you know what, come hang out because I'm gonna get that room clean. We need to really work on that because I want that for you. And it makes mommy sad to know that you're in a room that's a mess right now. And so then they're hanging out and watching you do it.
Right. It's just shifting that thought of they won to and you
And they're
won.
getting over on me.
Right.
Yeah,
So he won.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I just have a question, not the room deal, but what if like a child is like testing you with with every little thing, like if I set out clothes and he'll like completely know that that's clothes for tomorrow, like he'll go out of his way to make sure that he pushes that and gets his own clothes.
Okay.
At first it used to be a struggle, now I'm just like, whatever. So he now is testing with other things. Like so I just feel like, where do I draw the line? Because when I say no, it means no. But sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm on your team. We're gonna work together. I'm not your big boss. I'm like, we are a team together. Okay, yes, I'm the grown up and I'm the adult, but you know, like work with me and I'll work with you. That's exactly the verbiage I always use. But it's always one thing or another. Like
So you
if I
get
make
into
cereal-
negotiation. If you work with me, I'm gonna work with you, and they're like, okay, mom.
Yeah.
So maybe I want to have the expectation that if I lay out an outfit, that's one you're going to wear. Sometimes I need to create the illusion of control because I'm so scared inside sometimes. I need to feel like I have some control.
And I think that's what it is. That's why I kind of don't want to like with little things like that, I'm just like whatever. But then I feel like it might, because now it's shifting not to school.
Right.
So it started at home and now it's shifting to school. So I'm just like thinking like, where do I draw the line where I'm not trying to like be upset, but I just know there's something happening. But then the way I get him to respond is like, I tell him like, yeah, I'm like, how was school today? He's like, oh, fine. And he's like, how was work today? I was like, actually, do you want to hear it? And if he said, yeah, I want to hear it. I'm like, oh, this happened. I'll say something really small. Then I'll get him going. He'll talk for like a whole hour about what happened at school. Right, you know that.
Yeah.
So it's like I share, and like when I'm like, I know you're struggling, the work struggle. My husband and I are always big fan of like, hey, I have a struggle too. Oh, I'm a grown up.
Right.
And I'll sit with them. I'm like, hey, look at me. Like,
Right.
you think I have it all together? I'm like, I have issues right now that I'm working with them all. Just because I'm not going to take care of you doesn't mean that I have everything under control. I'm like, I have a big boss too that I have to respond to at work, and my husband and God. I'm like, so don't think I'm, so I'm like, work with me, I'll work with you. But like, I think
Sounds like you're
there's
trying to
something.
reason too much.
I don't know what's going on, but now it's shifted to the school, and I just feel like maybe I kind of like
School in what way? What happens at school?
it completely just like shifted one day to another, like from being like stable and doing good, she knows. Like all of a sudden one Monday, boom, all of a sudden it's like a trigger, something like shut down. Like just, and it's exactly the 3-4 month period that he usually does with every home. So he completely gets comfortable, he feels safe, and now he feels like now you get to see the real me.
Okay. All right, so what you just said was huge, right? So what we're talking about is a kiddo that wants to control, I'm trying to say it in case they couldn't hear me. A kiddo that wants to control with outfits and stuff like that, and just with the outfit kind of thing, just up there for a second, is I would say, dude, you need to be in control, man. Like, have at it, little man. You pick out what you want to wear. But you're saying every 3 to 4 months is where this kid hits this place where all of a sudden you start to see the honeymoon's over, you start to see the behaviors, because everybody is going to get rid of me. And so he is going to give you everything that he's got, and you're going to have to get on the floor next to him. Don't go underneath him. How old are we talking about?
He's 9, but he looks like he's 6.
Okay.
Like, he's like really tiny teeth.
Try and make sure that you're not doing eye contact is the quickest way to stimulate your nervous system, your receptor in your brain. Eye contact, not a really good thing. So you kind of turn to the side. You want to make sure that you're not standing over him. You're not in the doorway and he doesn't feel like he's trapped in a room, right? So make sure all those things are set. And then I would say to him, you know what, 3 to 4 months, man, you really start to get nervous because everybody sends you away, and you've got to be figuring out that that's what's going to happen, because that is a massive pink elephant in the room, right? So we've got to embrace that. We don't want to bring it up because there's a lot of pain behind that, right? But we want to really get in there and go into it. And then I want to say, you know what, buddy, you want to control everything and anything because it's the only way you feel safe. So how that, what do you want to control? You want to control what you wear? You want to control what you eat? I want you to act out, give me what you got, because I'm not getting rid of you at the end of the day. We're here. You can get them over that hump, they'll be okay. And 9 is, they're thinking 9 to 12 is like, it's the most intense ages, right? They start to get better, 15, 16, 17, 18, they do start to do better, but 9 is so concrete, it is so black and white. So if I get frustrated with you, everybody gets frustrated, now you're getting rid of me. I didn't do what you asked me to do and take out the garbage, now you're getting rid of me. It's that concrete. So you and I are okay, nothing's happening, nobody's getting rid of you. You know what? It feels too hard to take out the garbage, I don't want you to. I want you to sit on the floor and tell me, no, 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 I am not going to do it. And you have an all out fit, and I'm going to go and take out that garbage for you. Give them permission to do it. On the flip side, it takes the fun out of it for them. They're just kind of like, what? What do you mean? Right? My daughter would freak out over failing things. You know, go to school, fail the test, fail it. Because then I'm going to get some cupcakes and we're going to have a party and you're going to learn that I'm going to love you if you fail the test. That everything is okay. So have at it, do what you got to do. We're not getting rid of you.
I will not have a party if someone tells me. Absolutely not. Just kidding. Like, I get the concept. I always try to throw like little jokes, but for us, like, I just feel like I kind of like was left with no other choice but just because there was too many, it was too much of a struggle with every little thing. And I kind of feel like, I think he thinks that he kind of got over me because I'm just like, oh, whatever. Like, what do you want to eat? I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, I'll be this. I'll give him the 2 choices because I feel like he wants to be in control. And I know like he knows that too. Like, it's like, what do you want, this or this? Versus like when I would put whatever on the food on the table.
Love and logic.
He will sit there and look at it and like, will not eat because I didn't give him a choice of what the options were.
Right.
So I think it's the control thing.
Well, and it is, right? He's terrified. In 3 and 4 months, if everybody sends him away, you're going to send them away too. And the more, like we physically know, like anybody have a loss and then all of a sudden you hit around that same time of year and then all of a sudden you're sad, you don't know why. And then you're like, oh, I lost so-and-so this month, right?
Yeah.
It's your body remembers, your body keeps the score. So now 3-4 months is when people start to send me away. I'm going to start feeling edgy and I'm going to do whatever I can to make myself feel safe. So if I decide that I need to have this dinner and this dinner is going to make me feel safe, then I'm going to obsess and separate and try and control and dictate that I get the dinner that I want. Because it's easier to feel that or to obsess about that than it is to feel. There's always something going on deeper. So you want to keep getting down to that deeper thing. And sometimes kids will say no. But when you nail it, they kind of like their eyes kind of open wide. And because they know that you just nailed it. And so their body kind of reacts to it.
I think
And so if they say no, you just let them sit with it.
I think it goes back to the whole, you're feeling like he's ruling the roost and walking all over you, right? If you give in to him all the time and you're thinking, you're the kid, I'm the adult. You don't get to, but I think that's where we're at with these kids, is they do get to rule the roost a little bit. They do get to throw the fit, and then we acknowledge the fit, and then we do the one thing we asked them to do.
So you rule the roost if I feel overwhelmed and I don't really understand what's going on. I rule the roost if I know that you're throwing this all-out tantrum because of the fact that you know you're going to get sent away, or this is the time you do get sent away, right? If I understand what's going on, you don't get to affect me, and I don't feel powerless, right? Because then I'm waiting for my opportunity to say to you, wow, you're really struggling because of blah, 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 right? With that kid, grandpa, with the kid going, you better get here and, and feed me. And then the grandfather is like in the front seat, and he's just like, oh my gosh. And then mom is like trying to take some deep breaths, but I'm going, she thinks she's going to die and nobody's going to feed her, right? I'm not even in that plane in that moment. That doesn't mean I don't have moments like that and I have to try and figure it out. But in that moment, I was not there. So then I don't feel like any kid is ruling in the roost. You know what I mean? Because I have a different understanding.
Right, yeah, that's what I think, that's where I think that. What?
I said, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I think that's the shift that we need to have, is that it's not a win for anybody if one person's trying to control, right, that child. But we don't lose either by cleaning the room or taking the garbage out or them wearing their own clothes.
Yeah.
It becomes a win for all of us because they then feel like we recognize the big feeling.
Yeah.
You also mentioned something about you're trying to reason with them too much. I mean, I was actually told that by our therapist because we are constantly trying to reason because we do want to give choices. We're constantly trying to reason to give her this sense of control while still trying to get something accomplished. And then we're teaching her how to cope at the same time to get that thing done.
Yeah.
But there's like a fine line between talking too much and reasoning too much, especially with a 4.5-year-old. She's 4.5, and we're literally trying to reason with her, and I don't really know an alternative way.
Right.
Because otherwise then I escalate.
Right.
And then I'm starting to I'll get up here. By reasoning, it kind of helps me be able to stay calm and show her how to process that.
Right.
But it doesn't work.
And then the other thing we want to look at too is what emotional age do you see before you, right? So if your kid, when we stress or regress, right? I regress to my adolescence. That's one of the places that we as adults regress to because it's an area of time that you go through a lot of stuff. But a lot of the times, wherever there's been some major trauma is where that child regresses to. And developmentally, if you don't do one stage correctly, you're not going to do the next, and the next. With one time, that's a weird story, Julie went to South America because I didn't have control over that, right? And so they sent her over there, and then over there you can drink at 15 and 16. So what did her family do? They packed her up with all of this alcohol, and they spent time saying, how could you have done this to your mother? You never should have told on her, and it's all your fault that all these things have happened and all this other stuff. And now this kid comes back to my house. In the interim, my grandmother dies. I'm in New York on a plane, and now I know she's getting home the night before I am. So I call my neighbor, and I'm like, just check in, make sure she's okay. I check in, I make sure she's okay. Now the next day, I'm on the plane, and I get a phone call. I had a party at the house. The dog cut its foot and there's blood everywhere. And the police were there and the ambulance were there. And I'm going, right? Now I've got my mother behind me going, Helene, you've got your daughter Madison. She can't be exposed to this kind of stuff. My husband's next to me, he's pissed, right? And I'm like, well, when kids do this, it's because blah, 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 blah. Right? He wants to hear that crap in that moment. So then they pull Brian up and I'm like, Brian, you gotta convince him not to kick this kid out, right? And then Brian's like, please, just mad, let me be mad. And I went, oh, yeah, you know what? You have every right to be mad. And honestly, I'm really scared. And I'm afraid, like, I know I'm not supposed to care about stuff, but I care about my stuff. I care about the fact that I just bought these new sofas, right? I really wanted these sofas. And now they're ruined and they've got blood all over them, right? So does that mean I'm gonna stop loving her? No, but I also don't think to stop and have my feelings about it. Because so many times, how many of you are sucking it up and saying, well, you know, they're going through this and the poor kid this, you don't stop and honor your feelings. So you have to, I am really sad about this. And the second my husband could have his feelings about it, then we walk in the house and he goes marching up the stairs and he opens the door and he's like, come here, get up, stand here, come here. And then she falls in his arms and he's like, oh baby, it's okay. And then he's like, all right, Helene, you know, you do what you do. Fix this, honey. But, you know, on the play note, to go back, because it's important, is that she's like, there's a party and wailing, crying, but then all of a sudden shifts and she's like, but it's okay because I packed my stuff, I'm ready to go. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. I walk in and she's like, and you. So she hugs him, right? Thank you, Daddy, I love you, right? And you were supposed to protect me. Yeah, you know what? I was supposed to protect you. I should have protected you your entire life. You should have been my baby in my belly. And none of this shit would have ever existed. You would have always been safe. With that, she dropped into a fetal position and I sat down and I have this 19-year-old kid and I'm rocking her. And she was an infant. She regressed to her infancy. And so I rocked her for a little while. Then we move on, and in that moment we met that stage, right? And then and a week later, she decides that I need to adopt her boyfriend Thomas. And so she's like, I want you to adopt Thomas. And I'm like, honey, he's not even up for adoption. And she's like, I hate you and you're the meanest parent ever. And she's stomping up the stairs. And in that moment, I get it and I laugh because for the first time, she feels safe enough and she knows she's not going anywhere. And we did the infancy, and now, all right, I've got a giant 5-year-old in my hands. But we can't see those things. Like I never would have seen those things if it wasn't for learning all of this. And then being able to get out of my own way and my own paradigm. Our belief system, you think about your paradigm, is that those belief systems are so deep that you think about the people that drove planes into the World Trade Center. If I kill myself and kill thousands of people, I'm going to get rewarded in heaven. That's a belief system. That's how deep they run for us, right? If I don't put the fear of God into this kid, they're going to be a mess. Well, you know what? If they mess up and they wind up going to jail and you have done the best that you can as a parent, then you've done the best that you can and you go and visit them in jail and you still love them, right? We need to know that we did the very best that we could and we created the best healing environment that we could. It doesn't always guarantee that there's going to be an amazing outcome. All right. I need to grab more.
I really appreciate the fact that you teach this and that you also have foster kids or adopted, because the people that teach this kind of stuff that have no kids, it's kind of hard to listen to. That's why I say thank you for sharing your experiences.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's gonna keep me emotional now.
So did you have biological children while you were going through this process with the adopted? So
Yeah.
how did the bio children act when they were seeing you do this
the defiant behavior from your adoptive
Mhm.
child, and scenario, go in and do the room, clean the room. Was that a whole lot of explaining you had to do to your bio children to get them
The
to?
gift was that my daughter was 4 or 5 when Julie came to live with us. And through learning this with Julie and then having had my own life experience, you know, because I was that really wild child and everybody would be like, Queen, you just got to get it together and stop. And I remember thinking, like, just tell me how. Like, if I knew how to not act the way that I was, I absolutely would have stopped acting out. Right. And I didn't know how to explain all of the pain that I was in. You know, I thought that there was something wrong with me and that I was bad. So having had that experience, you know, and thinking about, you know, I remember actually being terrified to leave the hospital with my daughter because I was afraid that I was going to do to her what my mother did to me. I was terrified. And so I started to raise Maddie in that very same way. You know, I would never raise a child any other way than in a very love-based way, because they teach, and Maddie gets it. You know, there's times where I tell her the story that one day Mrs. Stubborn was walking along and she met Mr. Stubborn, and well, they got together, they got married, and they had baby double Stubborn. She's a force, my biological kid. Unfortunately, she's got my DNA, my husband's DNA, and that's a mess. But she's a great kid, and she appreciates those things, and she acts like when I see her going through girl drama, she'll turn around and she'll be like, well, you know, Mom, I think they're really having a hard day. You know, and so she has become a product of this. So I didn't really have the like, why are you doing this? But I have seen a lot of families where that does happen. Like, when I was young, you did this, that, and the other thing. And then parents go back and say, you know, I wish I knew then what I know now. And I am so sorry. Can you forgive me? And let's start over. Because even once they're older, we can do things to change those imprints, right? We can still influence that behavior and give our kids healing from the stuff that we've been through. I mean, we can't be perfect. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've shifted a lot. It takes a lot to rock my boat at this point. But there was a time where it didn't, you know? And so I had to make my amends for that. Okay, so which ones do I want to go over? We do a lot of good and bad. Oh, good job, good job, good job. Well, if I'm saying good job, what's the polarity of that? Bad job, right? So if I'm not doing good, then I know I'm doing bad. In that, what we do is create a whole lot of people pleasers. So why didn't you do good on your test? You needed to study more. Oh, good job, you did a good job. And so what kids learn is that it pleases me if you get good grades. Well, we need to learn how to help them be pleased with themselves if they get good grades. Like, what do you think about this? Well, I feel really good. You know what? I'm really happy for you.
Well, I never tell my kids that they do good. I tell them they do nice. They're just for the same reason, because the opposite of good is bad. It's like, if it was nice, I don't tell them it was good.
So is it nice and not nice?
I think nice and not. Well, I don't think the kids looked at it that way, you know, but it was nice.
Okay. Okay. Ask them what they think, right? So how do you feel about the fact that you failed the test? I'm happy about it. Oh, good for you. Do you want to do that some more? Because my guess is that you probably don't. So when you want to figure out, let me know. Right? Or what?
Or I don't care. You know, how do you feel about it? I don't care.
You know what I usually say to that one? Honey, I so wish that was true. When they say I don't care, I really wish that were true.
Sometimes we'll tell our kid, hey, you did a good job. And he'll say, no, I did a bad job. When he didn't, he just, I don't know why he does that. Stubbornness, I guess. He'll just keep going, no, I did bad. I'm going to keep doing bad. I'm like, no, you did this really good. You built those Legos really, it looks really cool. You know, you did a good job. Nope, it's bad. Then he'll crush them.
So what do you think he's thinking?
I would
Who knows?
get every idea what he's thinking.
What's the reaction?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess so.
once a
Or he's
reaction,
never gonna be good enough.
yeah.
She's nailed it.
Yeah,
Yeah, is that if you tell me this is a good job, I'm not gonna be able to keep pleasing you, so just don't love me now, I'm never gonna be good enough for you, so just stop, right? And start figuring out what he thinks about that. Because it's amazing the imprints that these kiddos get. Oh, there we go. Ryan did a thing where he does 10, 20, 10. So 10 minutes is probably time in the morning, 20 in the afternoon, and 10 at night. And this is doing whatever the kid wants to do. So watch me, play this video game, listen to the world's worst music, listen to, 10 hours of Pokemon cards or, whatever that is. It's just spending that time doing whatever they want to do. It's not time for educating, lecturing, or any of that. And that in and of itself cut down behaviors by almost 50%. So it's always a good one. Humor, I like humor and I also like interrupting behaviors because when you do something like if I'm caught up and I'm fussing with you, right? And then mom all of a sudden turns around and takes a whole big thing of whipped cream and sprays it on the floor and is like, that's it, I don't know what to do. Here's the whipped cream. Well, what? Right? I had said to one of my kiddos, because she would always fight with, there was 2 teenage girls in one of our foster homes and they would fight. And then I would wind up in the middle and they'd be like around me, like trying to get at each other. And so I finally said to the girl, I was like, you do that one more time and I'm going to give you a cheap raspberry. And all of a sudden she did it and I blew like fart bubbles on her cheek. And she was like, oh, Miss Holding. And then after that, what I would say is, I'm feeling a cheap raspberry, come on. Because it interrupts, it's something that's way outside the norm. And they're like, what? And so that, or I'll drop down to my knees and be like, dear Lord, just help me, I don't know what to do. Or I'll talk to the wall, I'll talk to an avocado or whatever's around. Right? Because it interrupts it, and then you always have that thing to go back to. Predictability is huge for these kiddos. Predictability is whether or not I'm going to live or die. So things are going to change when you get home. Mommy's not going to be home when we can let kids know. Sometimes we can't be in control of these things. When mom's got to go into hospital for a procedure, but this is what's happening. Look, here's me in the hospital. Everything's okay. Mom comes home. Mommy's always come home. So trying to be as predictable with whatever is happening in their life. And even with your feelings too. If I'm in a bad mood, I need to name that I'm in a bad mood. I am just crusty, cranky mommy today. I'm sorry. I think mommy needs to be in a timeout. Mommy's just having a rough day. And so you want to be predictable, but if I'm going, no, I'm fine. And they know. I mean, some of these kids size us up left, right, and sideways, and they're reading us constantly. And then one of my other favorite one is an invitation. I know you want to do the right thing. Go for it. Or don't. You can, if you want to keep this behavior, you have at it. Like, as a matter of fact, if you want to go into it and be all the mad you can be or be all the sad you need to be, then go for it. My hope is that you'll get sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to do something different. And when you do, I'm here. Access me. So providing the invitation for them to do something different instead of trying to make that happen, because that helps us stay out of control. And the majority of the time when you say it and we turn and we walk away and we hold the sense of expectancy that they're going to do it, I want to say that 85% of the time they do. They will do what you ask for.
It just might not be right when you want them to do it.
Amen.
And you have to just be okay with that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to thoughts, questions, anything specific you want to try and work out.
I have a question.
Say like my 5-year-old, she's angry, she's throwing a fit. Grammy's trying to calm her down, and she just calls for Papa, and Papa intervenes. Is that something, if she's in a rage and Grammy's like saying Grammy disciplining her for something, and she wants Papa because Papa's the go-to guy.
It just depends on who she's mad
And
at.
yeah, if she's mad at me, she wants to go to Grammy and vice versa. But in that moment, to shift the madness off her, and she comes to me, but I'm not coddling her, but I'm also giving her a hug. Just you know what I mean? And she walks out of the room, it drops that down to, is that wrong? Or is that shifting something to where she knows she can always go to Papa? Because that's my concern is like,
You don't want Papa to be the hero, right?
Papa.
So we want to try and get grandma and grandpa on the same page. And then good for, this is you,
What's that?
this is you. So good for you to say, do you want Papa? Come on, let's go get Papa. Of course you need your Papa. And to be the one to bring them so that you're not the perpetrator and he's not the hero. You want to get out of that triangle, right? So, oh, you want your Papa? Of course I want you to have your Papa. Oh, I love when Papa gives you a hug and you feel so good about it. So it's not that she's pushing you away. This is all one big event to make sure that this kiddo is regulated. Makes sense? So you break that.
And it's vice versa. Okay.
Yeah, mine plays the game like he'll run up to my husband and be like, Dad, and call him Daddy, like in the endearment, like extra, and then goes and hugs him. And he'll be like in a complete different mood, even if we're just like in a deep conversation or he's helping me do something or we're in the room. Like today, we were in the room together. Put away all his clothes, so I have it all in the basket, but I haven't helped me to put it away. And sees him, and it's like he could stop doing whatever he wants. He wants to go give a hug to Dad because the dogs are out the reach. And then he kind of like undermines me. But then when he sees me, it's more like, oh yeah, because you're the bitch that like wants to tell me what to do all the time and has like, no, I'm just saying that, excuse me, especially because in God's house. But like I'm saying, like in his mind, he like is a straight, like he's a straight hardcore thought. And the way he speaks is like more advanced than like bad words. I'm like, wait, what? I think I heard that word. But like he'll say them under his breath, but but I'm just thinking like he hates it because I'm the one that's like in the morning, like structure things. So, and then he knows I tell on him. Like, oh, like he actually didn't have a really good day at school today. Actually, want to talk about it? He like looks at me with like these like, oh, I hate you. Like these eyes, like, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's just talk about it. Do you want to talk about what's going on?
That phenomenon that you're describing exists, where you're saying, for my Zoom people, you're saying that, for you, he's looking at you like you're the evil mom and Dad rocks. Part that does exist, in that sometimes mom is the thing that I need the most, so you're the thing I'm the most terrified of. So that's part of it. So they do have a tendency to push away moms. My adopted daughter is now 32. I get Mother's Day present maybe 2-3 months later. If I get it, my husband, you're the greatest dad in the world plaques and all this other stuff. And he never picks the phone, call her. I pick the phone to call her. He rocks and I suck.
Oh, even our kids, even our real kids, they're like very attached to my husband.
Yeah.
Like that's everything. Like he's like the softie. Like he's like the for Father's Day they make a big deal for him, but for Mother's Day it's like he has like, so what are we doing for Mother's Day? Oh yeah, like. No, I exaggerate a little bit, but I'm saying like it feels like that sometimes, but now it's different as they're older. But I can see our little one is trying to do that whole like manipulation, like I didn't want to tell you about like my good day at school, but I told him all about it. So it's just like one of these little things. I'm like, oh, I know what you're saying. I'm on to you too.
Well, there's something that you guys can access that really works, for couples too. is that men do have more logical brains. Women tend to be more emotional, right? So when we get upset, we get upset. When Dad gets upset, he's like, you know, like, okay, kid, you know, and so they can tend to move on. We want to access each other for those strengths, right? So I will say to my husband, okay, so A, B, and C happened. What are you thinking about that? Because I want the logical part of it, right? So that I can let go of my emotional. When he hits a place where I'm not getting what this emotional stuff is, and you know, Maddie's all upset with me, or that one's upset with me, explain to me what's going on and what the feelings, and give me some understanding so we can access each other. You know, the other thing too is that we also need to balance each other out a little bit too. You know, because sometimes as moms, we're like, you can't eat a donut and not brush your teeth before bed. And then Dad's like, it's a freaking donut. You know what I mean? So there's gotta be some of the balance where moms kind of let go some of that stuff every now and again, and dads are wanting to like really kind of step in and put down some of those boundaries. So we really gotta meet each other halfway in some of those things and try and find some balance, but we can access each other as resources.
So what website were you talking about? Were you talking about the test, something like the love language, like the 5 love language test? Because you mentioned there's something we can access.
Oh, when you access your husband's brain, when you're saying to him, give me your reasoning
got it.
and your thinking, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Any other thoughts or questions?
So, she's just bringing up something right now. I'm kind of like a drill sergeant,
Okay.
and it's not, I'm not trying to be, but I'm just like,
Everything that they're doing in the house is like, stop, you can't do that, you can't do that.
more in the backyard, they're getting in the mud, and I'm like,
And it just drives me crazy, but
and-
it sets a
and-
horrible-
and in my head, we're in a rental house, so I'm like, I'm just like, and it's a lot of it's my stuff, you know. I've had a passive addiction and whatnot, but a lot of it's my stuff that I have to have everything.
Okay.
And when the kids mix all that up, and I come downstairs and I'm all and it's a lot of it's my stuff that I have to work through. But I don't know, and I don't like being like that because I'm constantly.
Okay. So can I borrow you? Will you be a little vulnerable for me?
Vulnerable?
You almost had it till you said
So
that.
I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to touch you.
Lost him at that.
I want you to feel your feet, and I want you to kind of come to where my hand is. And feel this out your mouth. Right from here, when I can't control things, I feel what?
Weak.
What else?
Not in control.
My kids are outside and they're making a mess and they're getting mud and they're gonna bring it all in the rental house. How are you feeling?
Upset. Stressed out. There goes our deposit. It keeps going on and on.
That's real.
I feel like I'm never gonna get what I need. Once you say that.
I feel like I can't ever get what I need. Only paralysis.
How long did you not get where you need it?
Oh, I got what I needed.
When you were younger.
I got what I needed when I was younger. I came from a good family. I just made my choices.
You think you got into addiction for no reason?
No. My parents got divorced. When we were young. So my dad wasn't there. It was all my mom. Dad was there on the weekends.
Okay, and then how often was mom there as a single mom?
All the time, except for when she was working. She relied on us to cook for ourselves, do our homework, do our chores around the house. And she'd come home, spend time with us, back to bed, back to sleep.
Your parents did the best that they could.
Mhm.
But does everybody hear that I'm saying, he says, I never got what I needed. The sadness comes up, and then when I said, what do you get? Then you're like, oh, I got everything I needed. Well, my parents got divorced and my dad wasn't there.
Mhm.
Mom was there, but she needed us to do a whole lot of things because now it wasn't like I have a two-parent household anymore.
Mhm.
So your kids trigger that feeling for you all over again. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So that's the history.
Got it.
Got it.
Mhm.
Good job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what happens for us. So if we can take that step back and say, what else in my life does this look like? I remember one time I was on the phone with Brian and I had these foster kids in one of our foster homes, and one of the girls was in the corner and the other one was like the one was in the corner, so help me, she's gonna kill me. And the other one's over going, I'm gonna beat your ass and kill you. She's gonna kill me. And so I tried to do all these different things. And I said, well, Mom, pick her up out of the corner and ask her to go and stay in the bathroom until you get the other one calm. So she goes with Mom, no problem. She's in the bathroom. The thing comes out of the bathroom, goes back in front of her, and crouches back down in the corner again. Now I'm at a loss. Okay, I've done everything I know to do. And so Brian's laughing. He's like, Colleen, it's just part of the process. And I'm like, what do you mean it's part of that process? I've done A, B, C, and D. I have to fix. Tell me how to fix this. And I'm getting really angry at him. And I'm like, why am I getting so upset? So anytime we have these intense reactions, you have to ask yourself what's going on. And so I said, what else in my life does this look like? Well, all of a sudden I flashed back to my mom beating my brother really, really bad. And he's screaming, she's going to kill me. And I decided to take a stand. I called my dad and I was like, you need to stop this now. Make it stop. And my father didn't know what to do. And he's like, ow, ooh, ow. And so he started laughing and making a joke after it. That moment with Brian triggered me back to that state. And so I got pissed at Brian. And once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, this is part of that process. They're playing out their trauma. Right? And I'm playing out mine currently. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be so heavy and it doesn't have to be so big. You know, we just have to go back and pick these things up and look at them. You know, there's a great saying, what you resist will persist. What you pick up and look at dissipates. So we have to pick it up and look at it, but a lot of times we're not willing to do that.
Mm. And
then we resist it and we keep going on with the same old every day. Any other thoughts?
I need to get a lot of information.
I'm glad you're talking because I felt like I don't want to talk to
And
people.
a lot of it's like, I grew up, go outside, get on your tricycle, get on your big wheel, go play outside.
Yeah.
It's not that way today.
Yeah.
My two grandkids that we have, you can let them out in the backyard and they'll rather play in dirt and bugs and rocks and do everything out and not come in the house. And which is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I just have to talk. Part of me doesn't realize, just let them be kids. Let them do what they want to do. If they're not pissing you off, or they're not, you know, and they're not just causing havoc or starting the house on fire or anything, they're just being kids, let them be kids. And I have that, and I don't know why, because my parents let us do what we wanted, you know, but I have to realize and come to my own issues that I just have to let them be kids. Just let them do what they think. It's like they're not doing anything wrong. You know, who cares if they're spreading lead all over the back of the wall and washes off? You know, sometimes I get mad at that. I'm like, oh God, you know, but I have to just let them be kids. And I don't see that all the time. And I'm guilty of it.
know what I want you to do? I want you to, when the kids are being kids and you feel like you're really kind of like getting frustrated, or when they're just being kids before you're frustrated, I want you to go and just watch them. I want you to watch them play and see if you can really just enjoy it. Because my guess is that you really didn't have the ability to play, or that you had to kind of suck that up. And so playing just doesn't feel right for you. And so see if you can just take some deep breaths, enjoy them, and then maybe get in there and start them up.
Yeah.
You know, be the source of it. You might like let your little ones have a blast, like get into play. Because you probably didn't get that far.
I have one. So our 4.5-year-old daughter, we are constantly praising her.
Yeah.
So we are constantly praising her. We're always telling her what a great job she did. So naturally, when we talked about that whole thing about maybe giving her too many accolades and telling her she's doing such a good job, maybe it's too much. She's lately been doing, she'll say if she doesn't do something good, or she's not listening, which is chronic, she'll say, well, I guess I just hate myself. She's 4.5. I guess I just hate myself. I just hate myself. And at first I was like taken aback. So naturally I dug deep in that and I'm like, oh my God, let's talk about this. Why? Why do you think that? Again, she's 4.5. And so then she kept doing it and I thought, okay, she's trying to get a reaction out of me now. So now I'm just like, oh, that's too bad. You know, like maybe you'll work through that, you know? So I'm like playing with all these different things to kind of like get her to not say that. And I'm stuck as to why that's happening. Is it because she got just feelings of inadequacy?
You said I'm trying to get her to not say that.
No, I'm trying to get her to like talk about why she's saying that.
Right. But sometimes we don't realize it, but the things that we say a lot, right? And you're like, I'm trying to get her to not say that, because listening to a 4.5-year-old say, I just hate myself, it's sad and it's heartbreaking, right? For your 4.5-year-old shouldn't be saying things like that.
Right.
Right. So what you really kind of want to do is just be there with it, experience it, right? Early on in my career, I could do angry kids all day long because I was that angry, bully in school. And it's like, you and I are your best friends. We're good. And then we were big, right? But then when they hit those gut level tears, I'd be like, oh my God, like make it stop. Because I wasn't comfortable with my own pain, right? When somebody's really sad, we hand them a tissue to have them suck it up. When somebody's struggling, well, they lived a really long life when somebody dies, or so how old were they? Like it matters how old they are. Right. We have all these things where we mean well, but it's just because we're really uncomfortable with big feelings. So sit and be in it and just be like, oh, baby, you hate yourself. Tell grandma about that. Mom. Tell mom about that. Sorry. Tell mom about that. I want to know. Like, say it.
We're all there, Kim. We're all at the grandma age raising a 4-year-old.
No, I wasn't sure to how many grandparents sit there and be in it. Don't resist it. Don't try and move her out of it. Because the second you ran out of it, then they try and hang on to it.
But I want to make sure that what we're doing isn't causing those feelings. Like, is it feelings of inadequacy because we're constantly reprimanding her because she's always doing something? Such a great job on all these things.
You should stop doing both of those things.
What? Okay, so no one. She already rules the house. That's gonna totally like create like a.
So what do you want to shift? Because you're constantly telling her not to do things, she is gonna feel really powerless and like she's always messing up. I'm doing all these bad things, so I really am bad, and so because I hate myself is a pretty powerful statement, right? It's I hate myself, so why? be this way, right?
Right.
So you really want to start empowering this kid. And look, I say to kids, look, everything that you have been through is why you do what you do. If you didn't go through those things, you wouldn't have these behaviors. And it's not your fault. It is really not your fault. So we are now, Team Amy, and we're all going to help you figure this out, right? Look, I said to my daughter, she's like, why didn't you put me in basketball sooner? Baby, have you not met you? Again, Mr. and Mrs. Stubborn, double stubborn, So you're going to say, girl, you just struggle sometimes and you're all over the place. But it's okay, because mom loves you. We got this. We're going to figure this out. We just have to help you feel happy inside. We're going to work on you having a happy heart.
Okay. I'll let you know how that goes.
There are times where I'll say to kids, I'm like, don't you dare talk about my buddy that way. And they look at me like, because we'll say things like, oh, don't say that. And, you are worth it. And they don't feel any of that.
Right.
If sometimes you get in with a, don't you dare talk about my daughter that way. That makes me mad. You are not treating her nicely. And sometimes they can hear it for some whatever reason they hear in that roundabout way.
Yeah, well, she kind of like doesn't repeat it off is like as often when I just go with it, like, oh, I'm sorry, maybe we can work on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking too. I would go in and when she said I hate myself, I would say, yeah, you probably feel like you don't ever do anything right.
Okay.
And see what she says to that. Okay. Kids will often turn around like, especially adolescent girls, I'm just gonna kill myself, I wanna die. Right? What that is you are in so much pain, you don't know how to express it any other way. So tell me about it. Tell me about why life sucks so much that you just want to die. We go straight into fixing it. It's hard not to try and fix those things. Tell me about it.
Yeah, because a lot of times when they say it, they're not really suicidal. The suicidal ones that don't really talk about it like that. There's different sides that you see people that are suicidal.
Depends. But for the most part,
Yeah. I just from experience, like people that are been close to me. But my foster kid, he actually pulled that little like I'm not good enough, I'm not adoptable, and my forever family didn't want me. And I'm like, dude, look at me. I'm 23 years old. I'm still looking for someone to adopt me. Almost it's gonna be a long journey. I'm like, I never was adopted either. Because I was like kind of like in the really hot spot, So I'm like, my foster mom didn't adopt me, but the most important thing was that she actually took care of me and I felt safe. Also, that's the most important thing. I'm like, love is eventually gonna come natural when you establish a good relationship with a person that you trust. So this is what I've taught him. I'm like, this is how I felt. I didn't love my foster mom.
So there's a good place to share that, but then also get in there and say, wow, you must feel so abandoned.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
He makes it very clear. He shares with everybody. Like, just like, yeah, he's been to different homes.
Yeah. And nobody probably ever really hears him. Like, how often do you feel felt? Right? How often you come home and you're like, honey, I had a shitty day, and your husband and wife is like, wow, you had a really shitty day. Like, tell me about that. Right?
Yeah, I gotta get in the shower. Yeah, I told get your motorcycle. You had a bad day at work, and when you got a Harley, it's outside.
Now you have no reason to be upset.
Yeah.
Suck it up for therapy.
There we go, you got a writing program.
I think humor is like the best thing. Like you gotta tell the truth. Like sometimes I'm just like people like sometimes dreading like oh, what's in the house? What's in the house today? He doesn't know what he's gonna walk into. Was it a good day or a bad day? So he comes in like, what is going on?
So what did you want to say?
So we have a tough thing going on at our house. So we had okay. So we have a 5-year-old and she's really, really hard. She's getting harder and she was a drug in utero baby. I've had her since she was 3 days old. And so she hasn't experienced a lot of the trauma that a lot of these, you know, foster kids. She has a sister who's 7 who has experience. I've had her since she was 1.5, so she has some experience in a lot of trauma. But the 5-year-old pretty much runs the house.
Okay.
With her mouth, she likes to say the F word a lot. And it's get me my food now. And it's just the way that she talks to us is very rude. Any little thing will throw off. And she gets these really big fits. So I have to hold her.
Just so clear.
She'll pull her hair. Or she'll say that she'll pee on me. Or she's gonna pee her pants right now, or she's gonna poop and smear it. And then her hitting, she hits the wall, she kicks, she bites. And it's pretty much where she threatens, well, if you don't do this, and I'm gonna do this.
The ultimatum.
And it's hard because I, you know, try to hold her and calm her down and not love her. Don't kiss me. And then she puts her head, because she doesn't want any loves from me.
Yeah. You don't want to restrain her because she's making you, her brain is associating you with a threat. What I want you to do is when she turns around and she says to you, if you do this, then I'm going to do this. I want you to say, I sure hope you don't, and walk the other way. The second she has you in there and you're reacting to it, she's getting power from that, right? And so it's feeding a very false sense of power. She feels that powerless, right? So more than likely, she needs you to be that external brain. You're better off with a pillow blocking, right?
That's what I started doing.
Yeah.
I told her that if she needed to you know, hit something, you know, to make herself just get it out. I said, here's a oh no, then she's get out of my room, get out, I don't want you in here, get out of here. I mean, yelling and screaming, and then and then slamming the door is another thing because she's trying to get a reaction. And I say, no, you have to shut your door if you want your door shut. Leave your door open, you know, if you're gonna keep slamming it. A lot of things are just she's trying to get that reaction out.
And then you're correcting it though. You're saying don't slam that door. We need to leave it open, right? I want you to turn around and say, you're struggling. This is where I'm going to be when you're ready. You need me to get out of the room? Absolutely. You need space.
And that's what
so you're in agreement with it.
Yeah.
And you're making the decision too.
And then I'll sit at the end of like in the hallway, just because and she'll run out and go downstairs and then it's like, what do you do with that too? To where if I have to get up to go take care of something else and she's in her room, not calmed down yet enough, still upset, still angry. And then I find her downstairs. I says, oh, you're still mad because then she's still talking, you know, don't look at me. So it's hard.
So she's little.
Yeah, she's.
I would sit down and be like, girl, you want to be angry? Give her permission, because sometimes a lot of kids don't like getting permission to be where they're at, and they don't want to be there. Just basic 101 reverse psychology. So you have at it, be all the man you can be, and when you're ready, here's mama's lap, because mamas help babies feel better when they're struggling, right? So you're going to kind of announce that, and then you're going to sit there, and even if she doesn't do that, but she's like kind of like hanging out over here and she's watching you, you have her in what's called containment. Right? So you want to try and keep her contained, because that brain doesn't know how to regulate itself. She's here creating the power struggle, you're coming here. And so you need to do the repetitions, and we can get that back under control.
Just keep doing it and doing it, the same thing.
Well, no, you've got to shift some things, because right now she sees you as a threat, right? You're not intentionally doing it that way. But any kind of restraints, again, she's associating it. So she's not able to get regulation, not seeking you for regulation, right? So we want to start creating that, like, oh, you're having a hard time. Mommies are what help you feel better. But once you start bottle feeding her too, in the morning, afternoon, evening. And same thing.
We did that with our 4.5-year-old. There were times where she was kind of acting out and wanted to regress. And we didn't go as far as bottle feeding, but she wanted to be held and rocked, and she was, it was like a play. It was a play thing, like, oh, let's play baby, and you're the mommy and being held and rocked. And actually that started helping a lot. Like that whole week she wanted to keep playing it. And then after that, it almost kind of fulfilled something for her, and she hasn't done it since.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at our last. It was
I was gonna say, I
was
was in your guys' same situation when the last time she spoke.
What
I heard you say that she didn't have the trauma like the other kid. She had 9 months, 3 days of trauma because it wasn't, she couldn't regulate in utero. So it was a constant. So I thought the same that we had our little girl for 3 days, 2 days. Like, how could this happen if we got her and like brought her in and did all these great things for her, but it was not being able to be regulated that whole 9 months, and you know, and then in the hospital it just went berserk.
The other thing I want you to do tomorrow morning, once you wake up and put your feet on the floor and not be like, oh goodness, here we go again. It's your mama. I want you to say, okay, today I'm gonna figure out the things that I'm missing. I'm gonna go into this and I'm gonna figure out and learn more by the end of the day than I know. So that you're walking into this from a sense of power and looking, because there's probably some missed cues somewhere.
So, with me being Papa, Grammy, we have kind of have a routine. So before I go to work in the morning, I wake our 5-year-old up peacefully. Go there and, she's actually really, she's awesome. I get her clothes. We do hair together. It's just ponytails, nothing fancy. It's Papa's hairdo. So, but she enjoys that time, literally. Like, and when it comes to nighttime, I come home from work. You know, it's routine again. They play in the backyard. Grammy usually has them at home before I get home. Or 3 days a week, I pick up our 5-year-old, and she's already housed the 7-year-old. And she has that time with Papa. Go by the stinky pipes and the garbage trucks and all that stuff. And then we come home, she plays. We talk. I go shower. Then shower times comes around, and or vice versa. It could be food, it could be dinner or shower time. But I shower, pajamas, comb her hair. She goes downstairs. We eat as a family. And then after dinner is rest time. So she gets an hour and a half of tablet time, but she's with Papa in bed. You know,
I don't get a whole lot of one-on-one time. Depends on whether maybe I'm more of the.
You need 10, 20 time with her.
I mean, yeah, and I noticed the times that I do, she's a little bit different to me. But we still have the struggle with her and her sister. The 5-year-old instigates a lot with her sister. Like, she likes to hear her scream because the 7-year-old screams. We're working on that, using her words instead of screaming. But
take her toys,
or the remote control. Or, I mean, it's just like there's so many things that the 5-year-old does just to set the whole house off into this. Just like, oh my gosh, you know. And the other thing too is she cannot sit with something for more than maybe 10 minutes. Right. She's just from here to here to here. She can, you know, sit with the tablet for a little bit, but she even gets bored with that sometimes too. And we don't let her have that too. That's very much right. That tablet. But it's really difficult to know what to do, and are we doing the right things, or are we just making progress?
Do the 10, 20, 10. You're not making her worse. You're doing the best that you can. there are some different things we can do. Okay. Let me think, come up with another few more things. Okay. I'm gonna end us here. I think my back is this way. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be there. I'll be there this week and then next week. Maybe in Canada, but. Yeah.
They want their.
Are you ready for crutches?
Yes, yeah, I mean, it's all.
What did you?
So, my name's Amy.
Not a teacher, but she's physical.
Yeah, so we have. It was a great presentation, I really enjoyed it. So, okay. She's so friendly. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. I'm not sure where he is.